Good morning, guys. Can you hear me? Good morning, Kayvon.
Good morning, Rabbi. Can you hear you fine?
Okay, good. All right. All right, back to normal. 7 o'clock. Peditz's dicke. Here we go.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Are you in shul now?
We're still learning at home. I'm going to shul right after we finish learning.
But moving forward, you're going to be giving the share from shul or from home?
Well, let's first open up shul. Let's see how that works. If we'll make a protest, during a protest, we can for sure, then we can learn. But it's not a protest.
Then you can open the shul for 200 people.
All right, Chevra, this is Mamish Gavaldik. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Tzadik Zayin. We are continuing to learn the sugya of the Mekoshesh. Now we will discuss who was the Mekoshesh. We're going to have a concept that anything that's learned through a Gezeda Shava is Mamish, a limud that is written befedish. And how this relates to the sugya of who the Mekoshesh is. We're going to go from that into a beautiful Agadata, which is relatively known, that ha'choshed b'chsheirim loike begufay. If one suspects an innocent person, their punishment is that their body is afflicted. And we're going to start learning the machlokes in the Mishnah between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, hazoyrek min reshus hayachid l'reshus hayachid v'reshus harabim be'emtza. That we learned that Rabbi Akiva is Machayev, the Chachamim are pointed. And there are various ways, as we spoke out when we learned the Mishnah, to understand the machlokes of these Tanoim. We will also discuss here on Shabbos Tzadik Zayin, what is the source for the rule of lavud. Now, the literate taich of lavud is an extension. The concept of lavud is learned throughout Shas. We're going to categorize lavud into two different groups. One categorization of lavud is that, for example, the din is that even though we keep on learning that Reshus Harabim goes until 10 tfachim, we also know that if you have a space that is 3 tfachim or higher above the Reshus Harabim, from 3 until 10, if, for example, it's less than 4 by 4, it's called a makim ptur. But if you have, let's say, a mound on the floor of the Reshus Harabim that's under 3 tfachim, even if the top of the mound is less than 4 by 4, that is not called a makim ptur, that is bonafide Reshus Harabim. That's one application of lavud. Things are connected, but they are a mound within 3 tfachim higher, less than 3 tfachim lower, it's called Reshus Harabim. And then there's another application of lavud. Lavud is applied to fill in space. So, for example, when it comes to a sukkah, and you have to have the walls of the sukkah have to touch the ground, we do say good asik, but we don't say the opposite. So what happens if the walls of the sukkah come within 3 tfachim of the ground? We also apply the rules of lavud. Here, lavud will mean is that we fill in halachically the open space, ki'ilu, as if it's closed. For both types of lavud, we have to find the source, and the source for lavud indeed will be on this Daf Tzadik Zayin. We're going to continue the sugya of the Mishnah's machlokes Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, where you have Reshus Hayachid to another Reshus Hayachid with a Reshus Harabim be'emtza, by learning about the opposite case. What happens if a person throws from Reshus Harabim to another Reshus Harabim with a Reshus Hayachid be'emtza? We're going to have on that the Gavaldik machlokes Bishitas Rabbi Yehuda, in the sheet of the Tanach Rabbi Yehuda, where the Rabbi Yehuda will subscribe to that which we already quoted B'Shem Rabbi Eliezer, that if you violate a Av and its own Tulda, where the Rabbi Yehuda will hold that you're chayv 2 chatois, even though you're being chayv chatos for an Av, but still, right, we already have such a concept that you might be chayv for a Tulda independently. And finally, the concept of every melacha for Shabbos, for it to be a melacha, it has to be done with intent, and there are so many different applications of that intent. what happens if a person threw something and they either overthrew their mark or they underthrew their mark, it landed a lot further or a lot nearer. Do we say, oh, that lo is avida machshavta, what they intended did not happen, and therefore on a doiraisa level they will be exempt? Or do we say maybe not, right? Maybe if a person intended to throw very far, so that included very near, because it has to go near to get to the far, so maybe you at least over there, we will argue that yes, isavida machshavta, and a lot more. Let us start inside. We left off on Daf Tzadik Vav Amid Beis by the 2 dots, right, 5 lines before the bottom of the Amid. Again, we're learning the sugya of the Mekoishesh, as we explained Al Pi Chasidis, right, the Zoyar that the Alter Rebbe brings in Likutei Torah that's quoted in all of the Maimonim on Mekoishesh. The Mekoishesh was someone who separated between the Eitz HaChaim and the Eitz Hadas. And really, we'll see how this Hasidic insight will affect a certain logic into various statements that we will have in this sugya. All right, let's go. Tanach Rabbanim, we learned in Hebrews. Mekoishesh zeb Salafchad. Right, so we learn about Salafchad more in Parshas Pinchas, beginning in Parshas Pinchas by Benois Salafchad. But who was Salafchad and Shlach? Who was Mekoishesh and Shlach? That's the Salafchad. Since it says, Vayiyu b'nei Yisrael bad midbar, these are the words in the pasuk at the end of Shlach, where we have the story of the Mekoishesh. Vayimtzu ish, and by the way, ish is Hashem Hamayla. So even Al Pi Nigla, just to know that the Tzalafchad was l'shem shamayim nischaven, like we spoke out. He really wanted to show that we're still obligated to keep Shabbos, even though we were condemned to remain in the Midbar for around another 38 years after the story of the Meraglim. And indeed, the Chidah says something about it. It says that Mekoishesh, again in the Torah, Mekoishesh is written without a vav, has the numerical value of 740, right? And Shabbos is 702, plus 38 years, that is the same gematria of 740. Anyways, it says, ish. And we know that we were in the Midbar. Now we were in the word midbar is mamish extra. And regarding at the end of Pinchas, when we are introduced to the daughters of Salafchat, Avinu Meis, again, Bamidbar. So we have a Gezerah Shava Bamidbar to teach us Malahal and Salafchat, Av Khan Salafchat. So says the Tana Rabbi Akiva, Amar Loi Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Akiva. You're in trouble regardless, whether it is Salafchad, whether the Mekoishesh is not Salafchad. Why? Because if you take a right, the Torah hid him, and you are revealing who he is. Now, let's not forget that the daughters of Salafchad themselves says, the pasuk says, Ki bechetoi meis. Was the Torah never hid the fact that he made a mistake, but let's not confuse Chilul Shabbos with other mistakes. If he was the Mekoishesh Eishim, Al Pi Nigla, whichever one it was, whether he was Mavid, right, or whether he was Toilish, or whether he was Ma'amir, that's an act of Chilul Shabbos. So that's a much graver sin. The Torah writes Bechetoi, but you don't know that it's connected to Chilul Shabbos, and you're revealing it. So for that, you're going to have and ve'im lav, and if you are not right, so then you're moitzi laz, aloisad tzaddik. That's called the laz, to say he was mechalel Shabbos, again, even though it says bechetei meis, but he wasn't involved in the act of chilul Shabbos. Asks the Gemara, Ana Behuda ben Beseira, guys, Daf Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph, this is such an important line in the Gemara, the Elo Hagomer Gezerah Shava, Zok Rashi. Since Rabbi Akiva has Bamidbar, the Im Kain says Rashi, Loiki Sato HaTorah, that's not called the Torah hid, because the Havalek Mefurish. So let's go back inside the Gemara. Answers the Gemara that Gezerah Shava Gomar. As Rashi concludes on the top line, the rule that Ein Adam Dan Gezerah Shava Ma'atzmai can make up a Gezerah Shava. So since Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira never heard the Bamidbar, so he has the right to say that the Torah was Kisatu. All right. So hold on. So according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, the Torah does say Kibechetoi Meis. It wasn't Chilul Shabbos. What was his mistake? Answers the Gemara, mi vaya apilo have, also in Parsha Shalach. In other words, after Hashem decreed on that generation that and only in the next generation is going to go into the Holy Land, their reaction was, as the Alter Rebbe brings out on Tanya, once you were given a bitush, so the animal soul became humbled. So the godly soul came out, and they said, no, we Taka could succeed in conquering the land. Moshe Rabbeinu told them it's too late. And there were peoples that acted defiantly, and they attempted to enter Eretz Yisrael. He was from those Chavre. And look how beautiful it is. The attempt to going into Israel is the opposite of the Mekoshesh. The Mekoshesh, according to Kabbalah, according to Primis Yanyanim, he made some sort of division in Kedusha. He separated Malchus from Zah. He separated heavens from earth. He separated the Pnimius from the Chetzonius. The whole concept of entering Eretz Yisrael is the opposite. Is that Dira B'Tachtonim is dafka when you enter the land. It's amazing. Elamat wasn't yet the time after we sinned. So now we appreciate better. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseida is criticizing Rabbi Akiva for revealing, for saying it's Salafchad, and now we are revealing. Yeah, now we are revealing. It doesn't bother us that we are revealing, because it's the opposite type of sin. Alpi Nigla, it's about Chilul Shabbos. Rashi says versus something that's not as bad as Chilul Shabbos. Alpi Pnimius, it's the opposite type of sin, because if Tzlavchad was from the Vayapilu Hava, then he actually was on the right track at the wrong time. He wanted to go into the Holy Land. He wanted to bring the Atzmus of God in a revealed way in the world itself. And the Gemara continues, when it says, same back and forth between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseida. This is a pasuk in this week's Parsha towards the end, when Miriam and Aaron were speaking non-positive words about Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says that Hashem's wrath, right, flared up against Bum. Bum is them. Then now the Torah explicitly writes that Miriam became afflicted with Soras. The Torah doesn't mention any such punishment by Aharon. However, Rabbi Akiva says from the word bum, against them, Malamed, Sha'af Aaron is Stara, Divre Rabbi Akiva. And here we have the same type of exchange. Amalei, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseida Akiva, benkach, whether you're right or wrong, ato asalitin asadin, im kidvarecha, hatreda kisato va'ata megalo oisoim. Ve'im lav, ata moitzi laz, aloisem tzadik, oi gewalt an Aaron. Now, moitzi laz, the sin, the Torah didn't conceal. It's interesting. The punishment God concealed. But from the punishment, you know the sin. If what's written, Aaron Taka was not punished with Soras, it implies that the sin was lesser. If he did get Soras, then you can view it as, his sin was graver. So you're Moitzilas. The Gemara says, according to the Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseida, it says bum. So he says, that Nazifa means that sometimes you are censored. Sometimes Hashem is angry at you, but it doesn't affect a physical result of becoming, for example, over here, a Mitzvah. However, Miriam was, and according to his understanding, according to many approaches, since Miriam initiated those words, so therefore her, so to say, her failing was graver, so the consequence was graver as well. Says the Gemara. And here we're going to show that another Baraisa agrees with Rabbi Akiva. Tanya, commando Amar Af Aharon Nitztara, because it says here in the Parsha of Valoischa that Vayifen Aharon El Miriam Vihine Mitzuras, that Aaron turned. Now, turning isn't only a definition of where you're going to, but it's also where you're coming from. To turn means I'm leaving my direction and I'm going towards your direction. So it's not only that he was looking now on Aaron, where did he leave looking from? So Tana, the pshat of turning, Vayifinish upon Ma, he turned away from his own Soras. His Soras was healed quicker. And after he dealt with his own Soras, now he was able to turn to Miriam. All right. So says the Gemara, based on the story, that Amar Reish Lakish, or this is about Miriam and maybe also Aaron. A person suspects an innocent. So what is the result? That their own body, they are bodily afflicted. Let's use some psychological words, right? is someone who projects their mishigasan on someone else. So Hashem helps them realize that it's their own failings. How do you realize it's your own failings? If your own body gets afflicted. So you see on your body that the problem is with you. If it's not going to result in your own bodily affliction, then how will you have the ability of taking it back to yourself? And as it says, where do we see that? So we're going to Parsha Shmois. The Hein Lo Yaminu Li. This is Moshe Rabbeinu's right response to God Almighty, who's telling Moshe, go tell the Yidden that the time of the redemption came. So he says they will not believe me. However, that yes, the Mehem the Yisrael. So therefore, Amaloi, Hashem tells Moshe, hey, the Yidden are Maminim. And not only are they Maminim, but they are B'nei Maminim. You who are accusing them of not believing, it's because you don't believe. And now the Gemara explains, where do we see this from? Hey, Maminim, because it says, Taka in Shmois, that when Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron came to them by Yamein Ha'am. Where do we see that we are B'nei Maminim? Because now we're going back to that which it says in Parshas Lech Lecha, when Hashem promised Avraham Avinu. It's after he had Yishmael, right? That I'll have Yitzchak. So it says Vehem in Bashem. However, Ata Ein Soifcha Laha'amin. And now we're getting a jump ahead to Chukas, to the failing of the hitting of the stone. Shenemer, as it says, Ya'an lo ye'emantem bi. So he was Choshed V'chshedim. With his own, the point is, again, he's projecting. That means that if he suspects others of not believing, it's a simon that he doesn't believe. And again, how does God enlighten the person to stop projecting is by them seeing that they have a problem. How do you see you have a problem? If you have a bodily problem, you can't avoid a bodily problem. And in my Delaka, where do we see that Moshe Rabbeinu was bodily afflicted? Because going back to Shemais, right, Hashem gave him the 3 simanim. The first 3 simanim when he's going to go to Parai, first was the staff into a snake. The second was this event that Hashem told Moshe to put his hand inside his bosom. And when he took his hand out, it was afflicted with saras. And the third was, this is way before the makas, the third was to show Parai that he's going to take water. And when he threw it on the ground, it turned into dam. And here, the chsiv, as it says, the second siman, that Vayomer Hashem lo oid have no yotcha bechekecha, right? Hashem told him beyond not only the snake into the staff, or the staff into the snake, but bring your hands into your bosom. And for that moment, he was afflicted, and that was, so to say, the result of being choshed b'chshedim and the fulfillment of loike begufay. Now that we mentioned that event, the second ois or moifus, ois, the Torah calls it, that Moshe was going to show Parai, Amarava, became a Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina, even when there's a moment of affliction, you should know that midah toiva mimaheres lovim midas poranius. When something beneficial has to happen, it happens quicker. From this story, because the ilu b'midas poranius ksiv vayotzia v'hinei yodoi mitzoira as kasholeg. This is Moshe Rabbeinu when he took his hand out. His hand was as white as snow. It was stricken with saras like snow. But then Hashem told him to put his hand back in again. It says, and these words are superfluous. We already know it's so in other words, when it became afflicted, Moshe Rabbeinu put his hand, so to say, in his jacket or in his shirt. It's only when he removed it that it became afflicted with saras. But when he reverted that, when he put his hand back into his shirt, even before he took it out, that was the word. When it was still in the chekoi, already it was shava kipsarai. Midah tova comes even quicker. Okay, and now we're going to close the sugya that vayivla mata aharon es matoisam, that Aharon's staff swallowed their staffs. Now this is in Parshas Va'era. The hemshach hadvarim al pinigla is very difficult to understand. So it says the Gemara that when Aaron there, right, when it was mata Aaron, that vayivla mata Aaron, so Amar Abulazar nes v'toich nes. Nes v'toich nes is because that is where the Chartumei Parai also threw their staffs, and their staffs turned into snakes. That's what Rashi says. You're a magician. You're coming into a town of magicians. You're trying to impress me. So the miracle, the pshat of the nes v'toich nes is that not vayivla, the snake of Aaron, vayivla mate Aaron. That means that after the stick returned back, after the snake became a stick again, a staff again, then Aaron's staff swallowed their staffs, their matoisom. It wasn't that the snakes swallowed their snakes, it was the mata. The Marsha adds more. He says it's called a nes inside a nes, not another nes, because like we had in the Cholam of Parai, that when you had the 7 lean cows, right, the lean cows swallowed the fat cows and they remained lean, that Aaron's staff that swallowed all of their staffs remained just as lean. It did not become bloated. So that's the miracle inside inside the Mata there was an ace. Now what's the connection between Vayivlam? It has no connection, Al Pi Pashtus. So let's go back to the Hasidus, that this is concluding the sugi of the Mekoshish. What was the Mekoshish's sin? Is that he separated the Eitz Hadas from the Eitz HaChaim. And that's not true, because ultimately there's one emes, and that one emes of Einoid Movade will find expression in the physical world. And the ultimate uniting of the two staffs is where the mat of Aaron, which is a mat of Kedusha, will include in it, it will elevate everything in the world. So there's the merging of the staffs. And that is the tikkun, that's the ultimate tikkun of the separation that others attempted, whoever that Mekoshish was, attempted to do. Okay. We're focusing on the Mishnah, right? And we spoke this out when we learned the Mishnah. So the case of the Mishnah was, we're speaking about throwing from a Reshus HaYachid to another Reshus HaYachid. That in itself is a problem midrabanan, but not on the Raisa level. But the item that you threw went inside the Reshus HaRabim or went over the Reshus HaRabim. So we have to understand what's the machlokes that Rabbi Akiva says chayiv and the Chachamim stay potter. So boy Rabbi asked, how do you understand the machlokes in the Mishnah? Is it lamata masora pligi? And the item went through the Reshus HaRabim, but under 10 tfachim. In other words, inside the halachic Reshus HaRabim. Uba hapligi, the marsavar mar refers to Rabbi Akiva that we say we do subscribe to the concept of kaluta, kimi, or kama shehuncha, right? That's something that is contained in an airspace, is as if legally it's resting in that airspace. In other words, and therefore, since the item went from a Reshus HaYachid to the Lamata Masara, it was put to rest in the Reshus HaRabim. Now, guys, before we go on, I want to ask you a bomb question. If we subscribe to Kluta Kamisha Huncha, how would Rabbi Akiva ever hold that if you throw an item in the Reshus HaRabim, I'm standing in the Reshus HaRabim and I threw a daladamas in the Reshus HaRabim, how can I be chayiv? How can I be chayiv? Because every moment, ki'ilu huncha. So there was an akira hanacha. It all happened within daladamas. So will Rabbi Akiva hold that you're never chayiv for throwing something in a Reshus HaRabim? And the answer is no. Rabbi Akiva will hold that you are chayiv. Even when you subscribe to kaluta kamisha huncha, say many rishonim, the kaluta is only activated when the item leaves one domain and it enters another domain. However, whatever the lumdus of that is. If it's in the same domain, then you cannot activate kluta, not according to any opinion. Remember that rule. Let's go back to it over here. Umar Savar and the Chachamim hold that we don't say kluta kamisha huncha, which is why they hold. So Takit went from one Reshus HaYachid Akira, and they made a hanocha in another Reshus HaYachid. I saw you're exempt from achatas. Abel, however, says that Abel, if that is the case of the machlokes, if the item through lamay lamasaram, then the very hakol potter, and of course potter because it went through a makim ptur. So gesund teheit, knock yourself out. Kuluta kamisha huncha. So what? It went from a Reshus HaYachid to a makim ptur. It went from a makim ptur to a Reshus HaYachid. How and what's the chiddush? What did we learn Friday? Even though there are rules to Haitzah, the exception is Moshe. Since Shekain Hayamasa B'nei Kahas, and when they carried the Krushim from one wagon to another wagon, the wagons themselves were already Lamai Lama Asar Tvachim. And nevertheless, that's called carrying with the double Chiddush. It was Shnaim Sarsu. Each one only did one part. One did the Akira, the other lady did the Hanacha. But one of the chidushim of Moshe is that even though the item is going l'mayla ma'asar tfachim, that's called a bona fide malacha. But we don't learn Zajac from Moshe. Ein boy ela masha b'chidushay by Moshe. However, Oidilma says Rabbi, no, l'mayla ma'asar pligi. They only argue l'mayla ma'asar. Uba pligi the mar savar yalfin Zajac from Moshe. Rabbi Akiva holds we do learn Zajac from Moshe. Now, even if you learn Zajac from Moshe, you also have to subscribe to Kalut Tekamisha Huncha and a Chanami. Not only Kaluta Kamisha Huncha, but you learn from Moishet, not like when you're Ma'avid, when you're carrying, that's one thing. But if you're throwing, it's like when you're passing over, I don't care that it's L'mayla Masara. And the Chachamim don't hold that you learn Zodik Moishet. But according to this latter option of Rabba, everyone will hold your chayiv because everyone will subscribe to Kaluta Kamishun Chadamia. So asks Rabba. So to that Rabbi Yosef, I want you to know that Rabbi will say, I remember Rabbi Chiza asking the same boy in understanding our Mishnah. And who shed light on the Mishnah? Rav Hamnuna. Right? Upashtani Ali Rav Hamnuna Meho. What's the Mahaj? Says in a Braisa, the Braisa adds one word. The Oiver goes not to the person, the Oiver goes to the item, to the object. That the Oiver, Birashus Rabim Atzma, that's the extra word. So says Rabbi Nun to Rabbi Chizda, all of this is quoted by Rabbi Yosef. What's Atzma? Atzma means to emphasize that it's Lamata Masara Tvachim. Now, our Mishnah is speaking about Zoyrek, Fedish. This Braisa never used the word Zoyrek. Look at the words in the Braisa. It says, so what is the case of the Braisa? So this is very important. If this Braisa would be referring to the normal case of transferring, which is when one carries, which is called Ma'avir, Ma'avir, and what is the Braisa adding the words Atzma to imply only Lamatahu, the Masaru, the Machayev, but Lamayla Masaru, Loy Machayev? No, it can't be. As you remember, we already spoke out, a few DAF ago, when you carry something on your shoulder or even in your hand, even if you're tall and your hand is Lamayla Masaru Tvachim, don't forget there it's a little bit different because your feet are on the ground, but we already established that since when the B'nai Kahos, again, they did not put anything on the wagons. We have two rayas. Let's go to the latter raya. When they carried the Aron HaKodesh, even if they were not 15 feet tall, the lowest part of the Aron HaKodesh when they were carrying it on their shoulders was above 10 tvachim off the ground, as we made the cheshbon there. So when it comes to carrying, we don't care if the object itself is L'mayla Masara. So the Braisa that is emphasizing Atzma is not speaking about Navid. This Braisa must be the case of our Mishnah. And the fact that the Braisa has to emphasize Atzma, that's telling you that shedding light, and my friends, that's the Machloikes, Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, whether B'chlal you subscribe to Kaluta or not, but L'mayla Ma'asara, no one will hold your Chayiv, because we don't learn Zoydik from Moishet. Beautiful. So indeed, says Rabbi Yosef, that Shma Mina, that it's only Bekluta, Kima, Shehuncha, Pligi, and indeed, Shma Mina, my friends, that's according to Rabbi Yosef. However, this approach, which is all quoting Rav Hamnuna, Upliga de Rabbi Elazar. All right. Dam Rabbi Elazar. That Rav Hamnuna is not arguing with. Satana, this is the Amoyed Rabbi Elazar. That Machayev Rabbi Kiva, right? Clearly, if you throw something from Rashus Hayachid to Rashus Hayachid, the case of the Mishnah, and the item went through L'mayla Masara Tvachim, even here, Rabbi Kiva will say that what? That your chayiv. Now, when Rabbi asked the question, Rabbi gave two sides. According to the latter side, that they argue L'mayla Masara, Rabbi said, Lamata Masara, everyone will agree that your chayiv, that was Rabbi's way of learning. Because if that will be the case, then everyone will agree that Kluta Kamishon Uncha, the only machlekes will be whether you compare Zoydek to Moishet. The Amoyed Rabbi Elazar, first of all, not only does he not agree with Rav Hamnuna, not agreeing with Rabbi Yosef, he learns that the machlekes between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim are in both cases. Rabbi Kiva holds number one, Kluta Kamishon. Rabbi Kiva holds number two, we learn Zoydek from Moishet. The Chachamim argue with both. The Chachamim say we don't learn Zoydek from Moishet. The Chachamim also do not subscribe Gavaldik to Kluta, which means like Chachamim, when you throw something, whether it went L'mayla, whether it went L'mata, you will always be potter. Why does the Braisa write Atzma? Rabbi Lazar learned the Braisa. He knew the Braisa. The Tani Reshus Rabbim Atzma is the Tayu the Koyach of the Chachamim, not like Rabbi. No, the Chachamim argue in both cases. That the Chachamim hold that even if it went through the Reshus Rabbim, so even if you don't have to learn Zajac from Moshit, the Chachamim also hold your pater because they don't agree to Kluta. Good. Now, Danny, you're looking.
One second. According to Rav Hamnuna or according to Rabbi, you're saying that the Chachamim would say that you're chayiv in one of those cases?
Yeah. No, so we look inside the Gemara by Rabbi. Either they argue lamata masarat tvachim, and the argument is kluta, or says Rabbi that lamata masarat tvachim, everyone agrees to kluta. Their argument is, so asked Rabbi, the argument is only lamayla, whether you'll yalfina on Zajac mimoshit. Here, Rabbi Lazar holds they argue on both. They argue on both. That's the way he teaches the Braisa. He has to say that to farem for the Braisa. So when the Braisa emphasizes V'rishus Rabbim Atzma, it's because they argue in both cases. And the chiddush of the Chachamim, the leniency of the Chachamim is much greater in the case where it's lamata. Because even though you don't need to learn Zajac from Moshe, the Chachamim still say you're exempt.
Right, but according to the answer of Rav Yosef, so the Chachamim Taka, they're saying you would be pater in both cases also. Yeah,
I know. I'm saying the Chacham. But when Rabbi was wondering in our Mishnah, the tzad that he had in our Mishnah, that they are arguing L'mayla Masada on that tzad, Rabbi connected that if they argue L'mayla, then they both agree L'mata. Says Rabbi Lazar, no, they argue on both. They argue on both. Okay. Danny, I'm speaking about the side of Rabbi's boya, not the conclusion that he had from the Braisa. Okay. And he, not just like Rav Hamnuna argues with Rabbi Lazar, likewise, he also argues with Rabbi Lazar. That what? Again, we're speaking about a thrower Reshus Hayachid to Reshus Hayachid. Now we're adding another detail. What happens if the item flew, not only Lamata Masara Tvachim, it flew Toich Shloisha. Here says Rav Chilkiya Divrei Hakol Chayev, and as we'll learn in a moment, the din of lavud L'mayla Masara Divrei Hakol Pater. Why? Because he holds like Rav Hamnuna, not like Rabbi Lazar. No one is Yalfin and Zajac Mimoshit. That's the only area where one of the machlekes Rabbi Akiva v'Rabbanan.
Rabbi, according to Rabbi Lazar, the opinion of Rabbi Akiva above above 10. What's the reason why he holds your chayev? Because of the Zajac and Mimoshit. No, but there's no kluta above 10.
No, there is kluta. It's just it's in a makim p'tur. But we don't care that it's a makim p'tur because since Shekein Hayamasa B'nei Kos, when they were being moished, that they carried it through the makim p'tur. So what? The Akira was made in a Reshus Hayachid. Think about it. The Hanacha was made in a Reshus Hayachid. So you're chayiv. It went through another Reshus in between. Here also, the Akira in a Reshus Hayachid, the Hanacha in a Reshus Hayachid, it went through another domain. It's like a makim p'tur, but it's another domain. Right. Here, this addition of Toich Shloisha. Wow. Now, it's good that we spoke it out so many times. What's the shvus? The shvus is, my friends, forget about the Reshus Rabbim. If I carry directly from my backyard into your backyard, if we did not make an Eruvi Chatzeros, we spoke it out in the Mishnah, then I'm Chayv Midrabanan. Fine. No one is debating this. Because even in the Mishnah, when we learned the words, the Chachamim are poitrim, they're poited from Chatos, but you violated the rabbinic. And therefore, if both Reshuyas Hayachid were yours, my backyard to my backyard, and you're completely mutter. That's where you have the machlekes that Rabbi Akiva is Machayev and the Chachamim are poitrim. All right, so says the Gemara, Amar, right? We just quoted a Braisa, Vashik in the Braisa, the Imay Reshus Shaloi, then mutter. What's that mutter? That you're throwing it. What happened over here? I'm throwing it from my Reshus Hayachid to my Reshus Hayachid across the street. It's flying through the Reshus Rabbim, but L'mayla Masara Tfachim. Completely okay. Completely okay, because we don't learn Zajac from Moshit. I don't care kluta. It's the same owner. Nothing happened. Same case. And on the other side of the street of another Rishus HaYachid, Rabba Barafuna, in the name of Rab, says, Asur Lizrek Mizelazeh. Shmuel says, Mutter Lizrek Mizelazeh. Now, guys, let me ask you a question. How can Shmuel say that it's allowed to throw Mizelazeh if we're speaking about Rishus HaYachids that belong to two different people? The fact that Shmuel says you can throw from one Rishus HaYachid to the other is Araya. We're speaking about the same owner. Nevertheless, Rab says that Midrabanan don't do it. How can Rab go against the Braisa? The Braisa says, Divrei Hakol, right? You're going to be okay. So answers the Gemara, you forgot a detail of the Machloikas of Rav and Shmuel. Lav, mi, oikim nalaha, hi, kigoin, the midlei chad, mikate chad, that the heights of where I'm standing in my Rishus HaYachid, and I'm throwing it into my own house across the street, is not on the same level. One is higher and one is lower. Now we're going on the presumption, my friends, that if I'm throwing from ground level to ground level, first story to first story, roof to roof, I'm going to hit my target. People who grew up in New York and they had snowball fights, or people that play sports can identify with this. In the Gemara it says that if not only do I have to get the right distance, right? I'm throwing for 10 feet, but if I'm going from one level to another level, it's harder to hit my target. Because it's not about how far, but I also have to take into the equation the up, the incline, or the decline. And therefore, there's a chance, a halachic, a more significant chance, that this item is going to fall in the Rishus HaRabim. Now, if it's going to fall in the Rishus HaRabim for itself, that's machlal not a problem. Why is it not a problem? It's called misasek, right? I didn't intend. If I'm throwing from my Rishus HaYachid to your Rishus HaYachid, that's not malach. I'm sorry, to my own Rishus HaYachid, I'm not violating anything. The problem is not that I might miss my target and it's going to fall into the Rishus HaRabim. Rab's problem is that after it falls into the Rishus HaRabim, I'm going to have my article in the street. I'm going to have Rachmanis on my article. And now I might carry it into the house. That's an act of Chil Shabbos. That's what Rab is saying. And therefore, maybe v'asala asuyeh. It's very important. Not it might fall on the street. Again, that's not a problem. But after it falls on the street, that's the only reason why Rav says that it's also midrabanan. Has nothing to do with the Braisa. When the Braisa says that if both Rishus HaYachid belongs to the same person, mutter, it's speaking about in a scenario that we're not afraid that the thrower will miss the target. Why will he not miss the target? Because everything is on the same height. Weiter. Or the opposite. It was Rav Amnuna that told Rav Chizda. That now that we introduced this whole concept of lavud, that koil, pachus, mishloisha, kelavud dami, the word lavud means an extension. And as we spoke in our intro, there are two applications of lavud. Application number one is, again, you have a mound in the Rishus HaRabim. As long as the tip, the peak is under 3 tfachim, it's Rishus HaRabim. Not a Makim P'tur. Or if you have a mountain in Rishus HaYachid, the same thing. If it's Lamata Mishleisha Tfachim, it's part of the domain that it's on. There's another application of Lavut. And we're not going to focus on that right now. We're focusing only on the first one. So how do you know that it's Lavut? It's part of the, so he says it's a logic, it's a svana. Malkin and Nehitni are two types of kalim, two types of tools that they plane out, they flatten out a board. You're not going to flatten out to the Rishus HaRabim to have everything on the same level. It's only natural that in a Rishus HaRabim, there's going to be some crevices, there's going to be some mounds, some ups and some downs, and therefore it makes sense that it's considered part of the flat floor just because it went up a little bit. The Gemara's challenge to that is that just like a Rishus HaRabim is not perfectly flat, in the times of Chazal, it was very common that the ups were 3 tfachim, not less. What's the magic of less than 3 tfachim? It was just as common. Now, obviously, there has to be a line, there has to be a shiur, but the Gemara doesn't accept that this logic is going to determine the shiur of less than 3 versus 3. That's question number 1. Question number 2, even if you're going to say, well, you got to give a shiur. Yeah, it's around 3. If it's under 3 tfachim, it's part. If it's beyond 3 tfachim, it's already not considered lavud. But the Hadatanan, we're giving just one of many examples where lavud means Not only that if there is a mound, is it considered part of the floor? Much more than that, that if physically there are two things near each other, but they are not touching, lavud means we fill in the space. That logic has nothing to do with that you can't flatten out. Where do we find that you fill in the space? For example, we learned a Mishnah in Sukkah, Hamashal Shel, she's bringing a wall down, milmailo lamato. And again, if the wall is built on the ground, we say good asik if it's 10 tvachim tall. But it has to touch the ground. So says the Mishnah that im hein gavoim and arz v'shloishim tvachim, even if it's exactly 3 tvachim, if it's not less than 3 tvachim, then it's psula. But the moment you hit pachas mishloishim, ksheira. Why ksheira? Because lavud, it's as if the wall touched the ground. Where do you get that from? So the Gemara says, no. That's not lavud. What's the purpose of a wall? The purpose of a wall is to create a proper boundary between one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. If a wall goes down very close to the ground, that will be the key. Can a young goat, can a gedi squeeze through it? So as at the moment a gedi cannot squeeze through it, so it's considered a wall. You cut off that area. You build a wall. If it's 3 tefachim that we take know, then they can go through. If it's a drop less than 3 tefachim, then they cannot go through. And that's the determination. The Gemara says, no, that's not true. Because that explanation would only work by the lamata. That a gedi, if it's 3 tefachim, a gedi could go through, so it has to be within 3 tefachim. But what about lamayla? Lamayla, this is even common today. Lamayla means that if you're building a wall for a sukkah, but you don't want to build a wall, you have these straps. So remember that in. So if you put the first strap, if you're going melmata lamayla within 3 tefachim from the ground, and then you go from the strap number 1 to strap number 2. Strap number 2 is within 3 tefachim of strap number 1. As long as you go up that way and you hit 10 tefachim, you got yourself a halachic wall. And the Gemara is saying that a gedi on the top two, within the top of the 10 tefachim, even if there's going to be a 3 tefach gap, a gedi cannot easily go through there either. So if what's going to determine whether we say lavud filled in or not is whether the wall is effective, then yeah, I get it that if you're on the ground, less than 3, a gedi cannot, but if it's 3 tefachim, a gedi can squeeze in. The ones on the top, even 3, a gedi cannot easily squeeze in. So therefore the Gemara says, we must say, was muzagan ela koil pachas mishleisha, ki lavadami hilchas gemidala. And hilchas gemidala on both applications of lavud. It's late, let's run weiter. Now we're flipping. In the Mishnah, Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim be'emtza. What happens in the opposite? Tan Rabbanan, Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaRabim, Rishus HaYachid be'emtza. So Rabbi is Mechayiv and the Chachamim HaPoitrim. Now what would be the issue? The issue L'chayra, my friends, will be Kluta, right? Okay, L'chura. And let's go Dafka, and L'kula Alma, whether it is Rav Yosef, Rav Hamnuna, whether it's Talmud or Rav Elazar, the maskana is the Chachamim do not subscribe to Kluta. So that's why they're pater. If you don't say Kluta, it went from the Rishus HaRabim to a Rishus HaRabim. Now obviously, it did not go Dalad Amas b'Rishus HaRabim. We're going to get to that later on our base. If it went Dalad Amas and Rishus HaRabim, that's another issue. But the case here is it didn't go there. It's only if you say Kluta is there an issue. Rabbi is Machayv. Now here's the issue. Comes along Rav and Shmuel, and they both explain Shitas Rabbi that Loichi of Rabbi Ella Dafke if the Rishus HaRabim was roofed. Now my friends, the Rishus HaYachid was roofed. A Rishus HaYachid doesn't need to have a roof for it to be considered a Rishus HaYachid. If it's Lamaila, Ma'asara Tfachim, or even if there are walls of 4 Tfachim, of 10 Tfachim, and it's 4 by 4, that's a Rishus HaYachid. A roof is not needed to make it into a Rishus HaYachid. But Rav and Shmuel are saying that this halacha of Rebbe is only in a Rishus HaYachid that has a roof. When you have not only walls of 10 tefachim, but at least, or you have a roof, then we view the inside space as if it's filled. Like it's dark, it's like stuffy, it's full. That is where Rebbe says, you're chayiv, because the Amirinon, Beisa command the mal yadami, and therefore what? And therefore, when it went from the Reshus Harabim into the house, it made a hanacha because it's full. And then it made another akira and a hanacha outside. Okay, and now hold on. Before you jump, now we have a problem because Omar Rav Chana and Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Shmuel. When we have this machlokes, you know what's not clear? What's not clear? Yeah, I want to speak out about the Dal Damas B'Reshus Harabim. The Gemara is going to go into when they are arguing. When Rabbi says mechayev and the Chachamim are pater, well, we learned it. The one approach is that Rabbi holds Yechayev one, the Chachamim hold Yechayev nothing. And there's many ways of learning it. He says that mechayev hay Rabbi shtayim. You have two problems here. One is because you did hoitzah, and one is because you did achnasa. In other words, it stopped, like we mentioned, Ki'ilu it stopped, and then it went further. So Akira Hanacha. And we already went to so many times that doesn't make sense unless you hold Lashitas, Rabbi Eliezer, that you're chayiv for a tulda b'makamav, right? We learned that the last year, that the source of hitza'ah, the source of carrying is from taking from the Reshus HaYachid to a Reshus HaRabim. When we gave donations. Everything else is called a tulda. And he's saying mechayiv shnayim, so Yosef Rav Chana v'kakashelei. So Rav Chana himself, he quoted Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and then he's asking, Chevra Daf Tzadik Zayin, let's turn to Amid Beis. Lememra, the Mechayiv Rebbe, you're quoting Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Rebbe Atul Makamav. Now, yeah, we have such a Tana, but that can't be Shitas Rebbe. For Hatanya, Rebbe Yomer. When it says Devarim, Hadvarim, Eila Hadvarim, remember Devarim is 2, the Hey is extra, makes it into 3. The Eila is Bigamatria 36, so 3 and 36 is 39, and Rebbe says, meaning that the most chatois you can be chayiv for breaking all of the malachas is 39. If Rebbe would subscribe to the fact that you're chayiv atul the b'makim av, then you can be chayiv many chatois for the violation of Shabbos. So Amalei Rabbi Yosef, Rav Chana, you made a big mistake. You quoted correct. You quoted Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, but Mara Homasnila, you made a mistake by applying that statement that Rebbe was Machayev Shtayim on this case that we're learning about, from a Reshus Harabim to a Reshus Harabim, Reshus Hayachid Be'emsa. And because of your wrong application of that statement, you taka have a stira between Rebbe Yad and Rebbe, because Machayev Shtayim can taka only make sense if you hold that Rebbe holds that you're Machayev Atulda, even though you're Chayev for the same Av. However, Anan, I also heard this statement, but I learned it on another din, on the Tanach Rebbe Yehuda, as we'll learn in a moment. And because of my correct repetition of the statement of Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel on something else, I won't have any problems. Now, what is that Rabbi Yehuda the Tanya? Now, here we see clearly, Rabbi clearly does not subscribe to Machayev Tulda B'Makamav. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? It's not clear. So what's the case? Reshus HaYachid, Reshus HaYabim, Reshus HaRabim. Noch a case, guys. For over Arba Ames Reshus HaRabim, the Hesel Stutzach da. We got two problems here, right? We're speaking, guys, we're not speaking about carrying. We're speaking about throwing. So I'm throwing an object from the Reshus HaYachid to the Reshus HaRabim. If it would have landed in the Reshus HaRabim, what's the problem here? What's the problem? I carried Akira B'Reshus HaYachid, Hanacha B'Reshus HaRabim. But you know what happened? It didn't land the moment it entered the airspace of the Reshus HaRabim. It flew through the Reshus HaRabim at least 4 amas or more, and then it landed. That's in itself another problem. So here, Rabbi Yehuda Machayev, Chachamim Poitrim. Now, how many Chayuvim is Rabbi Yehuda Machayev? How many Turim does the Chachamim give? It doesn't say. And we're going to have a few. So on that comes along Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. That's what Rabbi Yosef is saying. Not like you, Rabbi Chana. On this, they said that Machayev Hoy Rabbi Yehuda Shtayim. By the way, guys, it works because the Rebbe, right? The Rebbe's name was Rabbi Yehuda. So that Rabbi Yehuda was Machayev Shtayim. Achas Mishum Hoitzah. The Achas not told him a Makamav. The Achas Mishum Havara. But by the way, right, when we learned that Ma'ivir Dalad Amas B'Rishus Harabim is halacha l'Moshe Sinai, right? How did we learn that the halacha l'Moshe Sinai is that that's a tulda of Haitzah. So here it's again, it's a avana tulda. And that's what Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel is saying, that the Rabbi Yehuda holds Yitaka Chayv too. For Akira Hanacha, for that, for Rishus Harabim, and then for Dalad Amas B'Rishus Harabim. If that would be the Pshat and Rabbi Yehuda, which would imply that the Rabbanan pater legamri, that wouldn't make sense. How can the Chachamim say pater? This is not like the cases that we have been learning until now, Rishus Yachad to Rishus Yachad, Rishus Harabim be'emsa, or Rishus Harabim within Dalad Amas, Rishus Yachad be'emsa. Here, clearly, it began in the Rishus Yachad and it landed in the Rishus Harabim. Ha'apeklam Rishus Yachad, Rishus Harabim. So it must be that the Chachamim hold Yechayev 1. They're only patering you from 2. So the whole vort of Rabbi Yehuda is Yechayev 2. Now, why would the Chachamim say you're only Chayev 1? I'll tell you why you're only Chayev 1. Because the Chachamim, like we have been learning until now, hold that if you violate one of the Lama Tes Malachis and Av and it's told the Behelamachas, you're only Chayev 1. So yeah, you did 2 acts of carrying Rishus HaYachid to Rishus Harabim, right? And you were Maver Dalad Amas B'Rishus Harabim, okay? Not okay, it's not okay, but you only Chayev 1 Chatas because it's a tool of B'Makim Av. Says the Gemara, I don't like your proof. So first of all, that resolves the contradiction of Rebbe and Rebbe. Rebbe for sure does not subscribe to that you're Chayev told B'Makim Av. And here we're saying that the Tana Rebbe Yehuda, that's Rebbe Yehuda Rabbi Eloi, right, the Rosh HaMedabrim, that he does hold, like Rabbi Eliezer, that you are Chayev told B'Makim Av. Frek the Gemara, your Raya is not a Raya. Mimai, what's your proof? Dilma, I can tell you, Loilam Eimalach, Rabbi Yehuda, Chad Yehuda Mechayev. Which taka would mean that the Chachamim say you are completely exempt. And we ask the question, how can you completely exempt? So Chevra, we learned on that Tzadik Beis, this is going to be the new Gewaldike Klal that we're going to really open up today properly. The concept of is avid machshavtoi. Remember that if I carried something lefanov, right, I hung it in my belt in front of me. And as I'm walking, this item went la'acharav. Remember that Mishnah? So the din is that I'm pater. Why am I pater? So we learned that because there's a shmira mu'ula lefanav. There's a shmira, there's a bad, when something is behind me, I can't protect it as good. That was not my initial intent. So we have this concept that if I did not do what I initially intended to do, I'll be exempt. And that's the case over here. The reason why the Chachamim pater legamri, right, the case again, the case is a person is in a Rishus HaYachid and they're throwing something into a Rishus Harabim. The question is, where did they plan for this article to land? The moment it goes into the Rishus Harabim, I want it to land over there. Where did it end up landing? It ended up landing not in the beginning of the Rishus Harabim. It landed at least 4 amas further. That was not my intent. And Ubahakum Ifligi. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, number 1, that Kluta Kemashancha. And therefore, guys, it's Gavaldik. When do we activate Kluta? We spoke out. Not when you throw something in the Rishus Harabim itself. But when an article goes from one domain to another domain, boom, you activate Kluta. So the moment it entered the airspace, Kemishavuncha. So his machshavtoi was fulfilled. And therefore, and now another thing happened. It went from one place to another place. That's another problem. And you're chayav tul b'makamav. However, the Chachamim hold.
Wait, isn't the second thing that it went 4 amas in Rishus Harabim? That's the second thing, right?
That's the second thing. Very good. And the Chachamim hold lo yomrin kluta k'mishuvoncha, which is great. This is going back to the beginning of today's DAF. Not like that side of Rabbi. No, the Chachamim don't hold to Kluta. And therefore, where did it land? This is Gavaldik. It landed 4 amas in the Rishus Harabim. So his original intent did not come. But however, this is all a challenging. How can you, Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel, say that Rabbi Yehuda is Machayev Shtayim? Because it can't be that he's Machayev 1, because that would imply the Chachamim completely exempt. It can't be that they're completely exempt. It makes sense. This is a pshat, and therefore let's go further. And maybe let's go further, Danny. According to this, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're talking about Chayev Shtayim, because you didn't want it to go with Dalad Amas B'Rishus Harabim. No, it's de facto it landed 4 amas ahead. If you subscribe to Kluta, that will be the Chiddush. It's Ki'ilu, it landed right away because Kluta was activated the moment it went into the airspace.
And the Chachamim, why would they say you're
and
not
the
chayav
Chachamim, they
anything?
don't subscribe to Kluta. So where did it land? Where it physically landed? It landed 4 amas beyond where you intended. Lo yisavida machshavta. You are completely exempt. Beautiful.
So even though you're intending to go from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, but because the place in Rosh Hashanah where it landed is not exactly where I wanted,
yes. Anuta, you never learned about this before. Lahavdil. Play pool. You have to say which hole you're getting it into. You have to designate the landing. Look, if not, you're lost. I saw Jeff playing. So anyways, go back over here. The Tanya, notice, and by the way, this Akasha, because what was his raya? So what's Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel's proof that Rabbi Yehuda is Machayev Shayim? Like, no, because since we learned Rabbi Yehuda Moisef of HaShoivit HaMedagdek, if you remember, Shoivit is, again, when all of the threads are already aligned on the loom, you don't want one to overlap the other. So they have these little picks. Until today in the modern machines, the Goyim in Brazil, they stand and they make sure that you separate them right before they are woven. Medagdek is right after the garment is woven. You want it to be symmetric. You want the threads not to be pulling, not to be too tight, the tension should be all symmetric. So they would beat the garment. That's medagdek. So he added, these are 2 malachas. And Amrullah, and the Chachamim told Rabbi Yehuda, first of all, we agree with you. You may not do that on Shabbos when you are weaving a garment, but Shoivit is included in Mesach, and therefore don't count it separately. Right? Medagdik is part of Oirek. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, he did add them. Why did he add them? So my love, why did he add them? Is because we're speaking about a case of Din Latavai Bahadi Adadi. You did Oirek and you did Medagdik. You did Mesach and you did Shoivit. And the reason why he's adding it is because Shmamino, Machayev Rabbi Yehuda Av. All right. And by the way, that would mean, in other words, Rabbi Yehuda saying that you're chayiv for 40. There's 41 over here. So even though it is considered. No. You're chayiv for every tool that's separate chatos. So the Gemara says, no, that's not good. You can't bring a raya from that brayso. The brayso is not speaking about someone who did them all. Rabbi Yehuda atulda b'makim av loy mechayev. If you would have done them together, you would only be chayev 1. The question is this considered a separate av? Or b'hakam ifligi that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's not arboim chasar achas, it's arboim plus achas. The 41 avos. The other 2 that he's moisiv is shoivit and medagdek. Rabbi Yehuda savar hani avos ninu, Rabbanan sabri hani told us ninu. And Teida, and I'll prove it to you that the pshat of Rabbi Yehuda is not speaking about you doing them both together. He wants to know whether this is a standalone av. And again, L'mayin Afkamina, he doesn't hold that you chayiv tul b'makam av. But Rabbi Yehuda holds that if you did all of these 41 violations, that means you did all of the 39 in the Mishnah, plus Shoivit and Megdagdek, even though you're not chayiv tul b'makam av, you will be chayiv 41 chatois, because Rabbi Yehuda says the words, moisef. Now, Amrat Bishleima, that avos, it's another av, that's the pshat in moisef, right? Avos, my moisef avos. Ela Amrat Toldos, but if the pshat would be that, no, that it's a tolda, and Rabbi Yehuda is being mechayev you because he's mechayev tolda b'makim av, the word moisef doesn't fit, and takashmami no. So what we effectively did is, this is important, is that first of all, we resolved the state of Rebbe and Rebbe. It's emes that Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel made that statement on Rabbi Yehuda. But we are rejecting that logic. Faket, we're saying Rabbi Yehuda is Machayev 1, and the Chachamim parted it completely. And it's Menami, Rabbi Yosef, Domini Travayu, Rabbi Yehuda Ela Achas. So now we opened up, I know it's getting late, but let's hop around another few lines. What did we opened up a Gavaldik topic now? So all of a sudden we are introducing Isavida Machshavtoi, Anaya Maisa, that if I throw something, see my friends, if I walk with something, Danny, I don't have to have an initial intent, because what is my hanach? My hanach is where I stopped. So that's where I stopped. So you can't say that's isavida machshavtoi. Throwing is different. Because by throwing, I am not going with the object. But the act of carrying means akira and a hanacha. So if I am not making a hanacha, I have to intend where the item will have its hanacha. And Taka, we are opening up this whole topic that if the item did not land where I intended it to land, then I'm, on a doiraisa level, I won't be chayiv. And now, therefore, now learn la hemshech. So says the Gemara, Amar le'Ravina le'Ravashi, Ulamai desal cannot dait in meikara. The machayiv ha'ira me'eshtayim. How can that even be? Because mi manavshach ila hachi kabayala. Where did he intend for it to land? What did he want? If he wanted it to land when it entered the airspace of the Rishus Harabim, okay, but then when it went another 4 amas, even if you say kluta kamishahuncha, so halachically your kavana came to fruition, but why would you be chayv a second time if it landed 4 amas further? And if you lachatchila, you wanted it to land 4 amas in the Rishus Harabim, right? Which one did you intend for? What was even the havamina? Everyone subscribes that when you throw something, you have to have the savida machshavtoi. So Amalei, the havamina was, kol makem shetirtza tanuach. In other words, if I had a intent that it should land on this line and it landed further, then you're not going to be chayiv. But we do allow a person to have a kavana. I wanted to land in the Rishus Harabim. I don't care where.
Why can't you say he wanted it more than 4 amas into Rishus Harabim?
Because then you didn't want it to land immediately. So even if you say Kluta Kamishon Chadami, you made 1 akira in Rishus Hayachid. It had 1 hanacha where physically it landed. You only chayv 1. Why would you be chayv 2? You chayv 2 because halachically it landed the moment it entered the airspace. But where did you want it to land? And if you wanted it to land in the immediate beginning of the Rishus Harabim, so then that means you didn't want it to land 4 amas later. So how can you be chayv another time for that? So the Gemara is saying that if you had a machshava stam, you said wherever it lands, then you will be chayiv taka twice if that was the havamina. If you subscribe to kluta kamishon. And now let's go back to Pshita, says the Gemara, that neschaven lizrek shmoina. Forget about changing domains. I'm standing in the Rishus Harabim, and I'm throwing it in the Rishus Harabim, and I wanted it to land 8 amas into the Rishus Harabim, and it hit earlier the Zajac Arba. Let's call this a underthrow. So the Gemara begins by saying Pshita, Hare Kosaf, Shame Mishimin. Great. If you have the word Shimoin and you intend to write the word Shimoin and you only wrote the first 2 letters, you chayv right away. I lo yisavida machshavtoi. Yes, yisavida machshavtoi. Because the only way you can write Shimon is by writing Shin, Mem, Ayin, Vav, Nun. You intended also to write Shin, Mem. Right? B'chlal, Mosayim, Mana. So the Gemara begins with the Pshita. If I intended to throw 8, and I underthrew it, well, to go 8, it has to go 4. Question is, this Chavan Lizrek Arba, the Zajac Shmoina Mau. Mi Yomininan Ha'apik Lei. In other words, that Isavida Machshavtoi, it left the Akira. That's the Ikir. The Ikir is it left where it came from. And since that part had Isavida Machshavtoi, you should be Chayiv. Dilma, which is what we learned until now in this Amid, that no, hey, Chidaboya Holinach. So the lav, I know the Amr later Ravashi. The Gemara says the way Rashi learns, even your pshit is wrong. No, that what the Amr lay ba'omer kol makim shetirtza tanuach. We just learned ba'omer kol makim shetirtza tanuach. What does that imply? That if you don't have this concept ba'omer kol makim shetirtza tanuach, if you had a specific location, it needs to land there. And if it doesn't land there, lo yisavida machshavtoi. And if that's the case, not only when you overthrew will you not be chayiv, even when you underthrew you won't be chayiv. Because if I intended it for it to land in 8, I did not intend for it to land only in 4 tfachim. Only 4 amas. I meant 8 amas and not 4 amas. You brought a udaka amrat harikas of shein mishimin, and everyone holds that if you write shin mem from shimon you're chayiv. Of course, the Gemara says, how can you compare one case to the other? Midami. When you write the word shimon, you have to write shin mem. Shin mem ayin vav nun. So midami hasa by shimon. Come on, the likes of shame, before you write Shin Mem, you cannot write Shimon. So when you intended to write Shimon, you had in mind to write Shin Mem plus, but you had in mind to write Shin Mem. But over here, my friend, for me to pick up something here, for it to land 8 amas ahead, it doesn't need to land 4 amas and to bounce off again. It doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to stop at 4 amas. Not Machlal Messiah Mana. What if it won't land in 4 amas, it can't land in 8, it could land in 8. And therefore, that's why Rashi learns, your pshita I disagree with. If you have in mind when you throw, wherever it lands, then you'll be chayiv. Right? But if the moment you have in mind where it lands, whether you overthrew it or whether you underthrew it, gevaldik, you will not be chayiv. God willing, to be continued.
Shin Mem is a word also, and Shin Mem Ayin is a word also. Shin Mem is a word, and Shin Mem Ayin is also a word. So
that's
even though you...
But I had in mind to write Shimon. The moment I wrote Shem, I'm chayiv. I had in mind, but if I'm throwing something and I have in mind it should land in 8 amas, saying gavaldik, just because it flies over 4 amas, I didn't have in mind for it to land in 4 amas. It's not Machlal Mosai Mana. The definition of carrying is Akira and Hanocha. Akira and Hanocha, not the in-between space. I don't care about the in-between space.
Rabbi, which DAF is coming up?
Yes.
All right. All right. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Tzadik Ches. Daf Tzadik Ches, compared to Daf Tzadik Zayin, is a whole different parsha. Now we are going to open up the Daf, going back to the case that we had in the Braisa of someone going from Reshus Harabim to another Reshus Harabim with a Reshus HaYachid be'emtza. If you remember, we learned in the last Daf, that's where the Rabbi, that's what they said, that was what Rab Chana said, that Rabbi was referring to a roof to Reshus HaYachid. Right? Our Mishnah's case was Reshus HaYachid to Reshus HaYachid to Reshus Harabim be'emtza. We're going to go back to Reshus Harabim to Reshus Harabim to Reshus HaYachid be'emtza. However, forget about the Reshus HaYachid aspect, which is what we spoke about on last Daf. I want to speak about another aspect. What happens if it traveled in the Reshus Harabim before the Reshus HaYachid 2 amas? Then it went through the Reshus HaYachid, and then it traveled another 2 amas in the other Reshus Harabim. So it traveled a totality of 4 amas, but it didn't travel 4 amas in the same Reshus Harabim. Another nuance. So we're going to learn your mitztarif. They combine and you're going to be chayiv. Then the Gemara is going to introduce that one of the definitions of a Reshus Harabim is that it is not roofed. This is all a hemshech. Notes. By Reshus HaYachid or Reshus HaYachid, we spoke this out on the last daf, doesn't need to have a roof. But the Reshus HaYachid could have a roof. And having a roof doesn't take away its status of a Reshus HaYachid. Adarabah. That was the whole Rab Chana, that if the Reshus HaYachid has a roof, then everyone will subscribe to Kluta. By a Reshus Harabim, if a Reshus Harabim has a roof, that in itself takes away the status of a Reshus Harabim. And the question is, where do we get that from? So really everything originates from how it was in the Midbar. So in the Midbar, there was no roof to the Reshus Harabim. And that's going to be the whole daf. We'll challenge that. Because when the Karashim were laid on the wagons, right, the Hashgacha Pratas, we just had this in Parshas Nasai, so the Nesiim donated a total of 6 wagons and 12 oxen. But the 6 wagons, the Kahas got no wagons because they carried everything on their shoulders. Who got the wagons? So the Pasuk says, B'nai Merari got 4 wagons. Why did they get 4 wagons? Because the Merarites, they had to carry the Karashim. How many Karashim were there, my friends? We have to know we had over 48 Karashim. Every Kedesh was 10 amas tall. Every Kedesh was 1.5 amas wide. And then when you look at the depth, it was 1 amma deep. So they had 48 Karashim that were piled on 4 wagons. So Chavra math, how many Karashim per wagon? 12. And they were transported that way. Now, the wagons were 5 amas long and 2.5 amas wide. On top of that, the wheels, not like today, lahavdil, in the cars, they are under the car. The wheels that we made to the wagons in the midbar, they protruded another 2.5 amas on each side. The wheels protruded, I take that back, half of 2.5, 1.25. So the wagon was 5 amas long, 2.5 wide, but then each side was another 1.25. If you went from one side to the other side, you had another 2.5, 1.25. We'll see why all of that is important. Now, from the way they put the boards on the wagons, it wasn't the length of the kaddish on the length of the wagon. Absolutely not. It was the length of the kaddish. Every kaddish was 10 amas tall. It was the oirech of the kaddish on the width of the wagon. On the width of the wagon. The wagon itself was 2.5. If it would be even narrower, then the kaddish, which is 10 amas, would not be properly balanced. And we're going to go through more numbers when we learn the Gemara, but what we will look to see is that since the sides of the wagons were 10 tefachim off the ground, the top of those mechitzas were 10 tefachim off the ground, when the kurashim were laid on the wagons, it wasn't just one wagon. When we piled it up, we learned the Mishnah, one wagon was behind the other wagon on the same side of the Rosh Hashanah. That is when they were putting the boards on the wagons. But when the wagons were traveling through the midbar, the 4 wagons of the Merarim, there were 2 in the front, 2 in the back, but the 2 in the front and the back were side by side. And each one was carrying kurashim, which means the expanse of the kurashim were 20 amas, 10 amas and 10 amas. But forget about the expanse of the kurashim. If you want to look at the wheels, which is the iked, because the kurashim were l'mayla masara tvachim. The wheels, if you look at the extremity of the protrusion of the wheels from one side to the extremity of the protrusion of the wheels of the other wagon, it was 15 amas. 15 amas. This is something we'll learn more in tomorrow's DAF. Now, not only that, but they needed to have, what's it called on a road? You have the side of the road. There's a word for that in English. They had on each side of the road another half of amma, just in case the boards would become disaligned and start to tilt over. So a Levi would run there and he would lift it up. And for that, a half a amma was enough. So 15 ammas from wheel to wheel, plus a half a amma, that's the 16 ammas comes from all this. Now that detail we're going to learn more on Daf Tzadik Tes. On Tzadik Ches, what we will learn is that l'chora, all of the area under the boards, it was roofed from the boards. If we are establishing a rule, which will stand, that a roofed area is not a Reshus Harabim, so that would mean that under the boards, it would not be a Reshus Harabim. Problem is that we have a statement that even under the boards, it was a Reshus Harabim. So we're going to have to work that out. And we're going to figure out, it's a technical, beautiful daf of exactly how were the boards laid on the agolos. And once we speak about the kurashim, we're going to speak about another gewaldige machlokes by the kurashim. Like we mentioned, l'kula alma, a kaddish was 10 amas tall. 10 amas tall just also happens to mean that the lowest alma of the kaddish was chiseled out into 2 protrusions that went into the silver adonim. That was the lowest alma. But anyways, from the bottom to the top was 10 amas. No one debates that. The width of every kaddish was 1 amma and a half. Now in the Beis HaMikdash and in the Mishkan, an amma is of 6 tvachim. That will be important to get those numbers. The depth of each kaddish in the bottom was 1 amma. No one debates that. Question is, was the kaddish symmetric? Was it 1 amma depth in the bottom and 1 amma depth on the top? Or were the kurashim built in a way where the taller it went, the more it tapered in? So really you had, what would say, an upside down V. On the top, it was very narrow, and only in the bottom did it go down to an amma. And that's a very, machlokes tanoim, it's a very significant machlokes. I know we're speaking a big intro, but you think al pi Hasidus, what is the main purpose of the Mishkan? Really, it's a machlokes Ramban and the Rambam. If the main purpose of the Mishkan, the center of the Mishkan was the Makim Ha'arein. The Arein is the Gilui Ashchina, God is coming down. Whenever God is coming down, it's represented by an upside down V, because it's coming from a Nakuda, right? God is 1, and then it goes into the expanse of Makim. It spreads out. When something goes from a source to an outer place, like the light of the sun, the further you go from the source, the more the light occupies. It gets weakened, right? You have a light bulb and one nakuda, you have a flashlight, the farther you go, the more it spreads. But there's another part, shot, that the main part that Rambam holds, the main part of the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash is our Avodah Karbonos. It's Milmata L'mayla. If you're going to put them both together, that it's something going up and something coming down, then they should at least have the same width. Perhaps that's the machlekes. So that machlekes will affect how the Kedoshim are laid on the wagons. And once we're going to bring in that machlekes of where the Kedoshim, the depth, one amma uniform or only one amma in the base, and as it goes to the top it became narrow, that's going to affect another whole topic that's not directly negeya to our daf of Shilchas Shabbos, of carrying Rosh Hashanah and Mekoira, but it's going to be negeya. If you remember, I think it was on daf Koyach, or in daf Chav Ches, we learned the words Mishkan, oil Michsei, and then Tachash. Remember there was a machlekes tanoim whether the Mishkan had 3 or 4 coverings. And independent of that, the lowest covering is called Mishkan. That actually was so beautiful and so embroidered that it was also the decor, it became the ceiling, the lowest one, Mishkan. Above that was a covering called an oil. And then above that was called the Michsei. So we're gonna go into we're gonna open up a Chumash, we're gonna go in Parshas Truma, we're gonna start reading the dimensions of the Mishkan and the dimensions of the oil. The oil was a little bit larger, but how far down did it go on the sides will really depend as how thick was the Kedoshim on the top. Because if the top of the Kedoshim was an Amma, so whenever you put a covering on top, not only did it have to cover the inner space of the Mishkan, and who remembers, what was the inner space of the Mishkan? I know we learned Midas together, but in this cycle, we didn't speak that out yet. The inner dimensions, when you were in the Mishkan, it was 30 by 10. 30 length was Mizrach Mairav, and side to side was Safan Danim, inside was 10 Amas. But if the Kedoshim themselves on the top was an Amma and an Amma, so when the Mishkan covering, and then when the oil covering went on top of it, you have to add, in other words, there was less for the sides because the top took up more. If you're going to hold like the Shita that the Kedoshim on the top were tapered, even though it was never a point, but with that little Ke'etzba, we're not cheshboning over here, so then it went down lower. And indeed, one machlokes is connected to how far down did the Mishkan go onto the ground? How much of the Kedoshim did it cover? How far down did the oil covered more? That's dependent on this machlokes. That's basically the whole daf. Now that we went through 10 minutes, let us start. We left off 2 lines in the bottom. It's a very easy and geshmaka Gemara. We're going away from all of the lumdis of carrying, and we're going to go into the building of the Mishkan. But let's begin with the Hemshech. Tanach Rabbanan. Hazoynik min Reshus Rabban l'Reshus Rabban. En Reshus Yachid be'emtza. Again, we spoke out in the last daf, Rabbi, machlokes Rabbi and the Chachamim, whether Rabbi was Machayiv Shtayim, whether Rabbi is Machayiv Achas. But we were focusing in the last daf only on Kluta Kemisha Huncha or not. Okay, so let's say that we don't say Kluta Kemisha Huncha. So it didn't stop in the Reshus Yachid, but you began in the Reshus Rabim, you landed in another Reshus Rabim. So here says the Braisa that if Arba Amos, that's the word, if it traveled 4 Amos in a Reshus Rabim, look inside the last Rashi, the Chiddush here is, the Reshus Rabim on the one side of the house, it only traveled 2 Amos, let's say. Then it went through the house. Forget about, we don't go to, the Chachamim don't hold of Kluta. We're not going with Kluta. Then when it went to the other side, it went through another 2 Amos or more. So the question is, do they combine, that's the last words in Rashi in the Amid, Vafilu alidei tziruf chayiv, that's the word, back inside the word, Aramas chayiv. However, turning Daf Tzadik Ches, if the sum total was Pachas Ma'arba Ames, you're pater. Now, it went through the Shus HaYachid. So if you remember that the Maskana, Bein LeRabba, Danny, Bein LeRabbi Eliezer, according to everyone, whatever the case in the Mishnah is, Lamaila Masara, Lamata Masara, everyone agrees that at least part of the Machlekes Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim is whether you subscribe to Kluta. The Chachamim don't hold of Kluta. So the Gemara is speaking out that the Chiddush of this Bryce is a double Chiddush. There are 2 things. Number one, we're telling you that the Reshus Mitzdarfos, we never had that concept before. Because it didn't travel in the same Reshus Rabim for Amos. We combined 2 and 2. And number 2, this Bryce doesn't subscribe to Kluta. So the fact that it went through a Reshus HaYachid, and let's go, even if it was roofed, only Rabbi is the one that holds that when it's roofed, you say Kluta. The Chachamim never hold of Kluta. Okay, so now, Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav, Hamavir Arba Amais B'Reshus HaRabim. Now, Hamavir again doesn't mean throwing, but it doesn't make a difference here. We're not going into that detail. Any type of 4 Amos in Reshus HaRabim. And we already learned all of it is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. It's a tulda of Haitzam. You will be exempt. You will be exempt. If it's roofed, that takes it down from the level of Reshus HaRabim. Why? Because because when we camped in the Midbar, we didn't have any roofed area. Gewalt. Now, we're not debating the fact that in the Midbar, we did not have a roofed area. Okay. By the way, even if the Anani are covered, are called roofs, the Ananim were L'mayla Masara Tvachim. So it's in the Reshus HaRabim, there was no roofs. Problem is that if someone did make a roof in the Reshus HaRabim and he carried under it on Shabbos, Daladamas, we are saying that on a Doiraisa level, you'll be exempt. And look, this is Rav. They were roofed. How were they roofed? Again, the walls of the Agola. The Agola was 5 amos long. It was 2.5 amos wide. Every wheel protruded another amma and a quarter. And this premise won't be challenged. The Karashim were not laid oirach of the Kedesh on the oirach of the wagon. No, it was the roichav of the Kedesh on the oirach of the wagon. Now, even that, there's many ways of doing it. Because if I'm laying down the Kedesh like this, I can lay it down like this, I can lay it down like this. We're not getting into that detail. An amma and a half, 1 amma, right? An amma and a half, there's the Kedesh versus 1 amma. We're not getting into that right now. First, we're just pointing out the fact that they would lay down. Now, every wagon had 12 karashim. The wagon was only 5 amos long. So they needed to stack them. It's disadvantageous to stack them too high, because the higher you stack them, when the wagons are rolling, the greater the possibility that something will become disaligned. So they were divided, as we will see in our sugya, either into groups of 3 or into groups of 4. Why groups of 3? Because if this is an amma and a half, and the length of an agol is 5 amas, so how many can I stack? Well, I know that 3, right? 1 amma and a half. 1 amma and a half will take off 4.5. 4.5, which we'll get to, which means that they left a little gap in between. We'll get to that soon. If it was stacked on the depth, so 4. You can put 4 piles. If they had, because 4 piles allows you to take an amma and to divide it in between the piles. How many were at each stack? Well, if you had 3 stacks, then every stack had 4. If you had 4 stacks, then every stack had 3. It's one or the other. That the Gemara is not going to conclude to at all. But let's first begin with the fact that when they laid out the Karashim, since when it went on the road, Kaviyachol, it was 2 wagons side by side. There was another 2 wagons behind. So there was a 4 wagon for the Bnei Merari, side by side. So just to know that the top of the Karashim, they really expanded. They expanded for 20 amas. They expanded for 20 amas. But they were L'mayla Masara Tvachim.
What does that mean? What does that mean? They expanded 20 amas. What does that mean?
Because if every Kaddish was 10 amas tall and it was laid on the wagon, the width of the amma was laid on the wagon. So if you're looking at one end to the other end, it's a 10 amas. 2 wagons are traveling side by side. So if you look at the end of the extremity of one to the other extremity of the other, it's a total of 20 amas. If I have 2 wagons traveling like this, and on each wagon I have the Karashim, and I'm laying down the Karashim, the length of the Kaddish is going al-Atzad. And they're going side by side when they are traveling, so there's 20 amas, and everything underneath it is under that roof.
It's got to be more than 20 amas, no? Unless they're like touching each other.
No, Mama, they left a little space, but we're not counting that, correct. And again, from the extremity wheel from this side to the extremity wheel to the other side, from wheel to wheel, it's 15. How do I get to 15? The wagon itself was 2.5 amas. The wagon was 2.5 amas. The wheels protruded 1 1/4, 1 1/4. So if you count that, what do you have? You have 5, right? So if I'm beginning over here, until I come to the end of the other wheel, there's 5 amas. Now, in order for the krushim on the top not to bang against each other, so there had to be 10 amas between the end of this wheel to the end of that wheel, allowing 5 amas for each kaddish, 5 amas for this side, 5 amas for that side. So you have 2.5. Yeah. If the wagon itself, from wheel to wheel is 5, and the kaddish is 10, so how much do you have left, my friends? Another 5. Divide that 5 in half. How much do you have? 2.5. So each side needed 2.5 beyond the wheels. So you needed 2.5 for this side, but then you needed the 2.5 for the other wagon on the opposite side. So there was 5 amas plus another 5 amas. So 5, and 5 is 15. You got that? If the kaddish is 10 amas and the wagon itself is 2.5, with the wheel space, it's another 2.5 from both sides. So that means that what is over either the wagon or the wheels from every kaddish, half of it. So you have another half that has to protrude, and you want to make it protrude equally on both sides. So it protruded 2.5 from one side, 2.5 from the other side. So if you have 2 wagons, one near each other, so there's 2.5 here, 2.5 is 5. So 5, 2.5 is 5, and another 5 is 15 amas. And again, there's another half a amma on each side of the road. That's the 16 amas. We'll get more to that detail tomorrow. Let's read it inside now. We learned that agalois, tachtein means under the wagon itself. Now the wagons themselves, we are beginning with the presumption that the wagon had a floor. That in itself, forget about the krushim, that in itself poses a problem. That in itself is a roof. We're going to focus on that at the end of the Amit. Beineim is the 2.5 of each side. That you can take a walk underneath it. You're not even walking in the area of the wheels. Vitzideyan refers to the place of the protrusion of the wheels. All of that is still part of the Rishos Harabim. Problem is, my friends, all of that is under a roof. All of that is under a roof. Now, important to know that no one is going to rebuttal that problem by saying, but the roof was l'mayla ma'asara tvachim. That we don't care. Because when we're saying that if there is a roofed area, nothing underneath is a Rishos Harabim, it makes no difference how tall or short the roof is. So I want to go back now to the Anani Yaakov. That's what the Rishonim speak about. If the sukkah is a shafti is connected to the Anani Yaakov, that's taka considered the sukkah. So why isn't that whole thing considered the roof? That's a big problem. Okay, back over here. So answers the Gemara. When did Rav say that under the wagons, that if you are walking even under the wagons, you're going to be chayiv? That's only bidaraso. Only if you are walking in between the gaps of the various stacks. So yeah, if you are walking physically under the krushim, that is not called Rishos Harabim. And if someone were to throw it there, they would not be chayiv. But even under the wagon, being that, like we mentioned, each wagon held 12 krushim. And they were not put in one pile of 12. They were laid out to the max possible to have the shortest stacks possible. So being that there was gaps, let's begin with the krushim being put down on their side that took up an amma and a half. So if every kaddish is an amma and a half, and the length of the wagon is 5 ammas, you are able to put down 3 stacks, every stack of 4. But 3 stacks only take up 4.5 ammas. So which means that you take that extra half an amma, and you give half of that in between each of the stacks. So that area is unroofed. That is where that's a Rishos Harabim. We got a problem, my friends. What's my problem? The problem is we learned in the last DAF the second application of lavud. What's the second application of lavud? That we fill in a gap. Now, an amma in the Beis HaMikdash was 6 tvachim. If you laid out the krushim in a way that you had an extra half of amma, how much is a half of amma? 3 tvachim. If that half of amma is divided into half, because you have 3 stacks, So then each gap is less than 3 tfachim. To read it inside. Michti. Gewaltig. Chamesh amin. Pusya means the width, because the presumption is we put it down on the 1.5 width side. So palga. So kama moisef. How many tfachim do you have left? Totally, if it's taking up 4.5, you have left a half a amma. A half a amma, my friends, is 3. Tlasa. I'm sorry. Kama moisef. How many stacks did you have? You have 3 stacks. So partially palga the amsa. So the sum total of extra is a half an amma. But that half an amma was equally divided in between the 3 stacks. So kishadale mar beini ubeini. The moment you divide that in itself, so in between each stack, you have a half of a half. You have a half of 3. You have 1.5 tefach. Kolavadami. So even if begashmias there was no covering, it's halachically there is a covering. We fill in the gap. Answers the Gemara. Do you think it was put down on the 1.5 side? And they made 3 stacks, each stack of 4? No. They were placed on their narrowest side. The narrowest side, my friends, is 1 amma. Now let's make a cheshbon again. If you have 1 amma, so then first of all, they were able to put 4 stacks, each one of 3. And how much space do you have extra now? 1 amma. How much is 1 amma? 6 tfachim. But you're dividing 6 tfachim now, not in between 3, in between 4. It means you're divided by 3. 6 tfachim divided by 3 is 2. 2 is vital less than 3. What did you accomplish? So what was the thickness? If you're looking at the narrowest part, it still had thickness. It was of 1 amma. So kama hama moisef. So how many stacks can you place? That's a shot. You can place 4 stacks. So how much do you have left in the length of the wagon? 1 amma. That 1 amma is divided in between 4 stacks, which is 3 gaps. So 1 amma divided by 3. Again, it's only 2 tfachim kalavadami. The Gemara says, hold on. Now I have an answer. That's how we introduced the machlokes that we spoke about in the intro, whether the kedoshim were uniform, 1 amma on the bottom, and they went up 1 amma, they were zicha 10 tfachim high. They were zicha 1.5 ammas wide. Question is, did they taper off in the top? If they tapered off in the top, then guys, one thing is a given, that they did not stagger the kedoshim. They didn't place it on the wagons where the narrow part of one stack faced this side and the next stack's narrow part faced the other. That they did not do. It was all uniform. So in one side, you're right, in one side, the side of an amma only had 2 tfachim in between the stacks. But the other side, if they became tapered, then there was 3 tfachim or more. So that's the good part. So they tapered off. They became very narrow again, not razor narrow. There was a finger, but we're not even counting that. Then it works, because if you are looking at the space in between the tapered side, you'll have a lot more than Lavut. There'll be more than 3 tfachim. But so again, you have 2 tfachim in between them. What's the kasha based on? Kasha is based on that if you're making if you are dividing 12 kedoshim uniformly by allowing an equal gap in between each stack, kasha, because you have a total of 1 amma extra, and you're taking that 1 amma and you're dividing it into 3. But says the Gemara, who says they did it? Who says they had the equal size gap? They did not do it that way. They put down 4 stacks on every wagon because they laid it on the narrowest side, on the thickness. The thickness was 1 amma. Let's say it's uniform. Now, the truth be told, that on one side of the kedoshim, there were golden rings through which they would put the beams when they stood up the kedoshim. And those rings take up space. So if I put the ring against the ring, I cannot stack them one touching the other. But I can make 2 piles, not 4, but 2 piles back to back. The ring of one is facing one direction. The ring of the other is facing the opposite direction. The parts of the stacks that are touching have no rings on them, no tubes on them. So instead of laying out the 4 equal with space in between them, answers the Gemara, it was 2 and 2. It was 2 and 2. and the entire extra amma was in between these two. 1 amma, 2 ammas, 3 ammas, 4 ammas, and there was 6 tvachim in between.
Where's the rings?
Double the need of labud. And so Omer of Kahana, ba'at be'ei. Ba'at be'ei again means that they were stuck together, 2 and 2, and you have a whole amma in between them, and there's no labud. And underneath that part is where we say it has a din of a Rosh Hashanah. But underneath the Kedesh part, taka, since it's Mekoira, it has no status of a Rosh Hashanah. The problem is that statement that we had before was agolois tachtein. Not only tachtein is a Rosh Hashanah, tachtein means under the wagon. Now, forget about the keroshim. Doesn't the wagon itself have a floor? So no matter how you would stagger or stack up the keroshim, tachtein should always be under the wagon, under a roof. Okay, so it was stuck together. 2 and 2. You had 1 amma in between the two groups. So what? But it was put on top of that gola. The base of the wagon, l'chura, was there was a floor. The floor creates a roof. DAF Tzadik Ches Amid Beis says Shmuel, no, the wagons did not have a floor. In order for the wagons, for the walls not to fall apart, they were like these, says Shmuel, there were yesedos, there were pegs, there were like 2x4s that connected one wall with the other. But if you were to walk under the wagon and you were to look up when there's no keroshim on it, you would see the heavens. And Bachal, the space side between one side of the wagon and the other, we're saying the wagons were 2.5. In between the pegs, right, that went on the width underneath the wagon, they were not within 3 tfachim of each other. There's no loved by the yesedos. So underneath the wagon, you're not roofed. Okay. Now that when we were coming to this conclusion, right, part of the problem was that you don't even have to put them 2 groups of 2 and 2 and 1 amma if you hold that the keroshim, they taper off. Now we'll learn that's the machlekes over here. We learned in the Braisa keroshim milmatan ovin amma, but umil mailan kolin v'ochen ad ke'etzba. And this is based on the pasuk shenemar that yiyu samim al roishoi. Oh, that they shall be tamim. And what does samim mean? Well, it says a pasuk in Yeshua regarding the splitting of the Yarden. Kamu nichresu, something that's coming to an end. Nichresu means to be cut off. Coming to an end means if something is tapering, it comes to an end. You see, it's like a pyramid. That's the pshat of tamu. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Pi Chasidus l'chura, that means that the ikir kavana was for the Shekhinah to come down. Agiloi milmayo lamata. So it was representative is that when you come to the highest part, it's a tip, and then from there it's emanating downwards. Rabbi Nechemiah says, no, two-way street. The Mishkan was Hashem revealing His word to us, but it's us also reaching up to God. So it's equal. Rabbi Nechemiah Omer, Kishem Shel Melamatun Oivin Amo, Kach Melamailon Oivin Amo. And noch, fakert, it says in Truma the word Yachtov, and that's the meaning of Yachtov. Now each one has to find for the word of the other. You, Rav Nechemiah, Shtetech Tamim, right? Which l'chayda means to come to an end. So he says, Hahu, the Leisu Shleiman. Tamim means, like we say, Tamim. Wholesome means that every board needed to be one piece of wood, and not today it's called plywood, and not various pieces that were connected together or that were pressed together. The Leisu the Nisra. You can't have different shtikalach that you press together. But tamim doesn't mean coming to an end. It means wholesome, one piece. It says yachtov, and it's missing in the yachtov. So he says, ahu, yachtov means deloi lishalchufinu mahadadi, that they should not be aligned out of place, which means, let's use the English word flush, that they had to be placed in a way that one was completely flush with the other. And this yachtov, as we'll see in a moment, Gavaldic details, meant that all of the wall, whether you're looking at it from the inside or the outside, it looks straight. And by the way, even though we mentioned that the Adonim and the bottom, the lowest Amma of the Kedesh, wasn't really a board because they chiseled out and they had two pieces of wood sticking out and they stuck in the silver adonim. When they stuck in the silver adonim, the adonim were not fatter, they were not narrower, they were not wider. When they were placed in there, everything was yachtov, everything was flush, everything was completely aligned. And now hold on, now when it comes, you have to know details of building. When you're building something and you want, if it's tapering, which means it's going in, you got a problem over here as far as the yachtov is concerned, as the Gemara speaks out. Now it makes sense, the words in the pasuk, all these chavra psukim in Truma, Uliyarche say, Hamishkin Yama, Tasa Shisha Karashim, Yama, we live in Yama West. Now the Mishkan, we mentioned that our Kabbalah is that inside it was 30 amas long and it was 10 amas wide. The Mizrach Vant was completely open. There was no Karashim on the Mizrach because you went in from Mizrach to Ma'ariv. So there was a northern wall, there was a western wall, and there was a southern wall. We mentioned that we had 48 Karashim. Every Kedesh, it fits exactly, was an amma and a half. Okay? Now, I know you're going to have a sum total of 72 ammas. That's from the outside. And the inside, it was exactly 30 by 10, 70. Now, hold on a second. How many Karashim were on the western wall? If the western wall was 10 ammas, so you needed to have 8 Karashim. But the 8 Karashim are divided in the pasuk. The center 6. 6, but 6 is not a 6. 6 is how many ammas? Every amma is 1.5. So 6 Karashim took up 9 ammas. What do you have missing? If it's 30 by 10, 1 amma. But every Kedesh is an amma and a half. So really the 2 corner Karashim, you only needed from each one to close from the inside how much? A half amma. Right, my friends? If you have 6 Karashim, which are 9 ammas, you're lacking the 10th amma. So it says in the pasuk, "Ushnei Karashim tasa lemei kutza'is," that the 2 side Karashim were the ones that formed the corner. Now, what happened when it forms a corner? So guys, if you have a picture, you'll see it right away. I'll do my best to articulate it. Don't forget, you have a northern wall and you have a southern wall. How much of each side Kedesh was covering the inside, like I mentioned, only in half an amma? What happened to the rest of the Kedesh? That rest of the Kedesh was needed to properly close the ends of the northern and the southern wall, the oifen, that whether you're standing inside the Mishkan, you're going to look at the walls, they were perfect, they were yachtov. There was a northern wall, there was a corner, there was a western wall, there was a southern wall. Whether you're standing in the outside, before they put the Mishkan and the oil and the mix on the top, you would just look at the Karashim. They were all perfectly aligned, both in the lower part and in the higher part. Because the Asya, Pusya, the Hana, the width, part of the width of each of the 2 corners, and they would cover, and they would come exactly with fit to the thickness of the ends of the northern and southern walls. But according to the Man Amar, that says that only Milamatan was a tefah, was an amma, I'm sorry. Only Milamatan was an amma. But the moment you come to the top, it tapered off, it became like a etzba. So like guys, my friends, if you would be standing outside the building, think about the northern wall. If the top of the northern wall on the top is going inwards, then it's going to be that the edges of the western wall from the outside will protrude in the north and the south. If you have a picture, you'll see that. And it did not look uniform. In the inside, it would look uniform, but not on the outside. That's a problem. So felt in the yachta. Which means one board would go in, meaning the southern wall and the northern wall will go in from that when you're looking at the outside, and the western wall would go beyond it. So the Gemara says, you're right. According to this Man Amar, they didn't randomly put the Karashim no matter where it was in the prior place. These 2 Karashim that were Lemikutza, they were custom made. And their outer part was trimmed in a way that it would become fully aligned with the outer part of the northern and the outer part of the southern. The Shafilahu, they would taper it again. Kiturin, like a mountain, which is rounded from all sides. So it wasn't only a tapered in one direction, but both ends, only that end was also rounded. So you would see a perfectly aligned yacht of wool also from the outside. Furthermore, says the Gemara, when it says over there in Truma V'habriach Hatichain, B'soich HaKrashim, the middle bar went inside the boards. So a kedesh, like we mentioned, even according to the Maskana, that when they put it on the wagons, they put two stacks one next to each other, and they put it on the width. But on one of the sides, both on the top and on the bottom, there was a golden ring, and these rings were placed in a way. So after they stood up the Karashim, there was golden beams that went through the rings that kept the Karashim together. Now, the one on the top and the one on the bottom, the rings protruded outside of the board. So each board had on one side, and the top and on the bottom, a ring and a tube through which a golden bar would go. And that's like why when they stacked them up on their width, so if there's a ring over here, you needed to make sure that the ring of one side didn't go into the beam of the other side, which is fine because they only put two boards together. There were two stacks together. So the rings went to the opposite sides. It happens to be that aside of the two golden bars that went through the rings, Milmaila and Lamata, in middle, there was a hole inside the Kaddish, a hole, into which they would put the Habriach Hatichain that would go from one end to the other end. Now, here's a chaim. We just mentioned that the Mishkan had inside 30, right? 30 by 10. That means that there was of inner walls 70 amas. There was one Briach Hatichain. It was a golden bar. Right? Today they would use the word that would snake through. That's a negative word. So when they would put it in, so let's say they would begin on the northern wall. I don't know which wall they began with. So it would go in, but the moment you would go 30 amas, it would come to the end. The western wall was mamash a perpendicular wall, right? And the inner beam would benes, it would turn. And as they're moving it in, it would go another 10 amas to the western wall, and then it would turn again, and it would go 30 more amas to the southern wall. So more than 70 amas, you have a solid piece of gold that benes haya oimed. Then oimed means it was positioned miraculously. But oimed doesn't mean that once it was in there, But the fact that it was able to go north, south, and turn around, Gavaldik, that is benes. Again, I understand that this concept is very much connected to this machlokes, whether it is an amma by an amma, or whether it is tapered off to the top. All right. No, the fact that there is l'kula alma, there is a gilui of godliness coming, like we learned in the end of Tanya, right? That in the first Beis Hamikdash you had malchus of atzilus and malchus of bria directly revealed in the kodesh kodeshim. It went over the ishtalshelus. So part of this gilui of godliness that's beyond space, beyond makom, has to do with the fact that the space bent, right? Bending space. That's a modern word. That is what happened over there in the Mishkan. So now that we mentioned, all b'negeya a roof to the Shus HaRabim, all trying to figure out not to have lavud, so for you to be able to stand tachtehen, and for you to still be in an unroofed place, and for that we brought in the machlokes whether they were tapered off to the top. So now the Gemara has to tell you that this machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Nechemia, will affect, like we mentioned in the intro, how far down did the Mishkan covering go? How far down did the oil covering go? Right? It for sure covered 30 amas going from Mizrach to Ma'ariv. It for sure covered 10 amas going Nadam Safin. But did it need to also cover a thickness of an amma of each side or not? Well, there's less on each side to go down to the ground. So when it says, Mishkan refers to the lowermost covering. That was, by the way, very beautiful. And it was also the ceiling, and there was a decorative interior, because you looked up inside, you saw the Mishkan. So it says that you began with yediyos, with panels that were then sewn together. No, the total was 28, and they sewed all of the panels together. You ended up, my friends, with 40 long and 28 wide. Okay, and then you put it on top of the Karashim. So kam yahav shtei or chayo lepusya the Mishkan. Okay, the total now will be 28 Asr Matamya. And as we mentioned, we know that when you stood inside the Mishkan, you looked up. Darim Safin, the width was 10 amas, so the 28th, 10 of it was eaten up. It cannot go to the sides, it's being covered, you're covering the ceiling. So 28 minus 10 is 18. You want to make it go down the north side and the south side the same. So how much do you have left for each side? You have a 9 and 9. Dal, so Dal as a ligra, the duck 10, Pasha Teshalai Gisa. Now, how long was each wall? 10 amas. So minimally, the Mishkan covering didn't go all the way down to the sand. It went down to it covered 9 of the 10 amas. And by the way, the final lowest amma of the Kedesh was anyways not exposed because like we keep on mentioning, it was inside the Adonim. So it went down until that when you looked, the Mishkan, before they put the oil, all you saw was silver. You didn't even see the boards made out of wood, the Karashim. That the top of the Kedesh took up no width. So then, even though it took up a finger breadth, we're not counting that. Basically, you had all of the remainder to cover the walls. If the top was an amma width, you don't have 9 and 9, you only have 8 and 8, because you have another whole amma that the Mishkan was covering the top of the Kedesh. So let Rabbi Yehuda, Migal Yamad Adonim, indeed, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that it was tapered. However, let Rabbi Nechemya holds that it was thick and amma even on the top. So it wasn't just 10, it was 12. It's only 8 and 8. And indeed, Megalia Amadi Krashim, it covered almost down. It covered 8 of the 10. The lowest one was the Adonim, but you also saw 1 amma of the Kaddish itself. And now let's go, not Safan Darim, let's go Mizrach Ma'ariv. So we mentioned that after they would sew all of the Yeriyos of the Mishkan together, it became total 40 by 28. So we went through the 28. Now let's go through the 40. Put the width. The width was 40. And that was put on the length of the Mishkan. Length means Mizrach Ma'ariv. How much do you have? You have 40. The inner length of the Mishkan was 30. So how much do you have left? You have 10. Daltulas and Leigra. Pasha Lo Eser, you have 10. According to Rabbi Yehuda, again, that the top of the Kedoshim of all of the walls, including the western wall, was basically nothing on the top. It was very narrow. So then you had a whole 10. So it covered all the way down to the ground. Even the Adonim was covered. Mechasya Amad Adonim. But according to Rabbi Nechemya, that says, no, the top of the western wall was an Amad thick. Rabbi Nechemya, Migalia Amad Adonim. It only went down 9 because it was 41. I'm sorry, it was 31 and 9. And now let's go to the next one. So guys, help up. The Mishkan was 40 by 28. Now let's go to the covering that went on top of the Mishkan called the oil. Here again, we're going to Psukim and Truma. It says, V'asisu Yiriyas Izim Lo Oil. And Oire Chariya Achas was Shloshim Amma. Okay, and here, just my friends, it was 30 by 44. Mishkan was 28 by 40. The oil was, I was saying, 30 by 44. So Shtei Arkayo Lepusya the Mishkan. Again, the length was put on the width. We're speaking about a length of 30. The top, we're speaking about the Safam Darim, was 10 amas. So from the 30, 10 was needed to cover. How much do you have left? Again, 10 and 10, same thing. Kama have your twasim. Now, Esel partial Igis, you have 10 for each side. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, that holds that what? Rabbi Yehuda, Machasi Amadadonim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that you did not need to use any of the oil to cover the Kaddish itself because it was very narrow on the top. So it went all the way down. It went down 1 amma more than the Mishkan. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that the Mishkan went until the Adonim. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, the oil went even covered the Adonim. According to Rabbi Nechemya, the Mishkan went down only 8 amas. There was 1 amma that was exposed. The fact that the oil wasn't 28, it was 30, which gives you an extra amma on each side. So it's good. So here, at least the oil covered the krashim, but still, Megalia amma, the Adonim remained revealed. And Tanya Nami Hachim, Ba'ama Mizev Ba'oidev. Ba'oidev, I'm going to read the pasuk inside because the Gemara is not calling over the pasuk. Amma Mizev Ba'oidev. we are quoting Shmois Chovav, that's Truma, and Pasuk Yud Gimel. At the end of the pasuk, we're focusing on the word to cover it. What's lachasoisoi? Lachasois amoshel adonim. It covered all of it, but that's only the Rabbi Yehuda. And Nehemiah says, no, it covered the Kedesh, as we just mentioned. And now let's go to the final. So we spoke about how the 30 Amos was spread in Tzafim Darim. Now let's speak about the 44 Mizrach Ma'ariv. Now here's important. The Mishkan was not 42. The Mishkan was 40. So here you really have 4 extra Amos. There's a big but. The big but is that the Mishkan did not go at all into the Mizrach. None of the Mishkan's covering descended in the east, completely opened. L'kula alma, 2 Amos of the oil went down a little bit, covering the east. So when you enter the Mishkan, you look to the top, you saw the oil going down. So when you had 44, 2 goes to the east. All right, 30 goes, now we said to the length. So now we're going to speak about the extra 12, not the extra 14, the extra 12. 30 goes for the Mizrach Ma'ariv. So how much do you have left? 14. Well, you don't have left 14 because Dal Tartal Kafla. The Kafla means to fold. They would fold 2 of that going down a little bit into the eastern front, as it says Befedish that the Chafalta Esayriya Shishis and Lopnei Ha'oil. So only you have left is 12, but you have the same achloikas. How much is 12? Pashlu Tartas they have 12. Bishlam Rabbi Yehuda. Now, every Yeri itself was 4 Amos. It says so in the pasuk. So when it says that Chatzi HaYiriya, half of a Yiriya means 2 Amos. Oy defes tisrach, right? She'll drape over. That works because it went on the ground. It went on the ground because you have 12. The walls were 10. So a half a Yiriya was laying on the land in the western side, in the west of, not of the Mishkan, of the oil. But according to Rabbi Nehemiah, how do you have half? You don't have half. Why do you not have half? Because if Yiriya is 4 Amos, half is 2, you only have left 12. But those 12, 1 is eaten up by the thickness of the kedesh on the top. So really you only have is 11. So Taka 10 is for the length of the western wall, the height of the western wall, and only 1 Amos is going down. So the word says, Enechanami. It doesn't say that it's going on the ground 2 Amos. The oil was 2 Amos longer than the Mishkan. Now, yeah, according to him, the Mishkan didn't even go until the Adonim. According to him, it went, in the Ma'ariv, it went until the Adonim. And now, not only did it cover the Adonim, it also went 1 Amma on the ground. Tizrach mechavrei seho. Gevaldik. And Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, that Lema Mishkan doima, Leisha Shem Halechas Bashuk, a woman that's walking, she's walking facing east, and there, you have these fancy dresses by us when a woman gets married, akala, so there's a trail, whatever that's called. And Taka,
train. It's called a train.
A train. I married a daughter. A train. The train is hanging on the ground. And al pi Hasidus, it's masuk midvash, because east is Tiferes, just to know. Facing Tiferes. And Tiferes also means to bring together. That's the goal of the Mishkan. The Ma'ariv is Yesoid. Yesoid means connection. Where was there mamish a connection that the oil went on the ground itself? 1 Amma, 2 Ammas, that was in the Ma'ariv side. And let's hop one more. Shtekul Tanan Abanan. Charutzim hayukrashim. The boards were chiseled on the bottom, like we mentioned. And b'chalulim hayadanim. Everything should be flush, like we mentioned. So the bottom Amma, the Adanim fit perfectly into the 2 protrusions. And then when you look to the top, the tzadik test, the nidin kerasin balulois kekochvei barakia. We started out with many yiriyos. The yiriyos were sewn together. We're speaking about the Mishkan. The Mishkan is what you saw when you looked up. It was blue wool that sewed all these yiriyos together. And then on top of that were golden hooks. So imagine when you looked up, the higher part of the Mishkan was a deep blue. There were many golden hooks, so it was gold hanging off the blue. It looked like stars in the sky. And just to know, Al Pi Hasidus, Al Pi Kabbalah, that blue is Chachma, gold is Malchus. Intuitively, right? The flags are gold, are yellow flags. Malchus is gold. And Taka, that's the Mishkan, that it's coming down milmailo lamata. You begin with Chachma, all the way down to Malchus. God willing, to be continued. All right, guys, I have to run. We got 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes to come to shul.
Oh, you got